Why human beings are seen to be inferior and superior. The Brahmin student Sabha, Today's son, went to the blessed ones and exchanged greetings with him. When this courteous and amiable talk was finished, he sat down at one side and asked the blessed one, Master Gomata, what is the cause and condition why human beings are seen to be inferior and superior? For people are seen to be short-lived and long-lived, sickly and healthy, ugly and beautiful, uninfluential and influential, poor and wealthy, low-born and high-born, stupid and wise. What is the cause and condition, Master Gomata, why human beings are seen to be inferior and superior? Student, beings are the owners of their actions, herds of their actions. They originate from their actions, are bound to their actions. Have their actions as their refuge. It is an action that distinguishes beings as inferior and superior. I do not understand in detail the meaning of Master Gomata's statement, which he spoke in brief. Without expanding the meaning in detail, it would be great if Master Gomata would teach me the Dharma so that I might understand in detail the meaning of Master Gomata's statement. Then, student, listen and attend closely to what I shall say. Yes, sir, the Brahmin student Sabha replied. The blessed one said this. Here, student, some man or woman kills living beings and in murderous bloody-handed, gives to blows and violence merciless to living beings because of the performance and undertaking such on the dissolution of the body. After death he reappears in a state of deprival, in an unhappy destination, he in purgation, even in hell, but if on the dissolution of the body after death, he does not reappear in the state of depravation, in an unhappy destination, in a perdition in hell, but instead comes back to the human state, then, whether he is reborn, he is short-lived. This is the way, student, that leads to short life, namely one kills living beings and is murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. But here, student, some man or woman, abandoning the killing of living beings, abstains from killing living beings with rod and weapons laid aside. Gently and kindly he abides compassion to all living beings because of performing and undertaking such action. On the dissolution of the body after death he reappears in a happy destination, in the heavenly world. But if on dissolution of the body after death he does not reappear in a happy destination in the heavenly world, but instead comes back to the human state, then whether he is reborn, he is long-lived. This is the way, student, that leads to long life, namely abandoning the killing of living belongs. One abstains from killing living beings with the rod and weapon laid aside. Gently and kindly one abides compassion to all living beings. Here, student, some man or woman is given to injuring beings with the hand, with a cold, with a stick, or with a knife. Because of performing and undertaking such action on the dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a state of depravation in an unhappy destination, in prediction, even in hell, but if instead he comes back to the human. Here soon, some man or woman is given to the injury, being with the hand, with a cold, with the stick, or with a knife, because of performing and undertaking such action on the dissolution of the body. After death he reappears in a state of depression, in an unhappy dimension, in the prediction of even hell, but instead comes back to human state, then whether he is reborn, he is sickly. This is the way, student, that leads to sickness. Namely, one is given to injuring, being with the hand, with a cold, with a stick, or with a knife. But here, student, some man or woman is not given to the injury, being with the hand, with a clod, with a knife, with a stick, because of performing and undertaking such actions from the dissolution of the body. After death he reappears in a happy dimension, in the heavenly world, but if instead he comes back to the human state, then whether he is reborn, he is healthy. This is the way, student, that leads to healthy, namely, 1. But instead he comes back to the human state, but then whether he is born healthy. This is the way that leads to healthy, namely, one is not given to injuring, being with the knife, with a clod, with a stick. Here, student, some man or woman is of an angry and irritable character. Even when criticised a little, he is offended, becomes angry, hostile, and resentful, and displays full anger, hates, and bitterness because of performing and undertaking such action on the dissolution of the body. After death, he reappears in a state of depression, in unhappiness, destination, and predilection, even in hell. But if instead he comes back to a human state, then whether he is reborn, he is ugly. This is the way, the student, that leads to ugliness, namely, one is of an angry and irritable manner. Character. Even when criticised a little, he is offended, becomes angry, hostile, and resentful, and displays hate, anger, and bitterness. Here, student, some man or woman is not of angry and irritable character. Even when criticised a little, he is not offended, does not become angry, hostile, and resentful, and does not display anger, hate, and bitterness. Because of performing and undertaking such action, or in a dissolution of the body, after death he reappears in a happy destination, in the heavenly world, but if instead he comes back to the human state, then whenever he is born, he is beautiful. This is the way, student, that leads to being beautiful. Namely, one is not of an angry and irritable character. Even when criticised a little, he is not offended, does not become angry, hostile, resentful, and does not display anger, hate, and bitterness. Here, student, some man or woman is envious of who envies, resents, and begrudges the gain, honour, respect, reverence, relations, and venerations received by others. Because of performing and undertaking such action on the dissolution of the body, after death he reappears in a state of depression, in an unhappy destination, in prediction, even in hell. But if instead he comes back to the human state, then whether he is reborn, he is uninfluential. This is the way, student, that leads to being uninfluential. Namely, one is envious, resent, and begrudges towards the gain, honour, respect, reverence, salvations, and veneration retrieved by others. But here, student, one man or woman is not envious, one who does not envy, resent, and begrudges the gain, honour, respect, reverence, salvations, and redemption retrieved by others. Because of performing and undertaking such actions on a dissolution of the body, after death he reappears in an unhappy destination. But if instead he comes back to the human state, then whether he is reborn, he is influential. This is the way, student, that leads to the being influential. Namely, one is not envious, resent, and begrudges towards the gain of honour, respect, and revelation, salvations, and venerable received by others. Here, students, some man or woman does not give food, drink, clothing, carriages, garlands, scents, unurgent beds, dwelling and lamp to recluse or Brahmins. Because of performing and undertaking such action in the desolation of the body after death, he reappears in a state of depression, in prediction, even in hell, but instead he comes back to the human state. Then, wherever he is reborn, he is poor. This is the way soon that leads to poverty, namely, one does not give food, drink, clothing, carriages, grassland, scents, unurges, beds, dwelling, and lamps to reclusive Brahmins. But here, student, some man or woman gives food, drink, clothing, carriages, grassland, scents, urges, beds, dwelling, and lamps to reclusive or Brahmins because of performing and undertaking such action on the dissolution of the body after death. He reappears in a happy destination in the happy world, but if instead he comes back to the human state, then wherever he is reborn, he is wealthy. This is the way, student, that leads to wealth. Namely, one gives food, drink, clothing, carriages, grassland, scents, unurges, beds, dwelling, lamps to reclusive or Brahmins. Here, student, some man or woman is obstinate and arrogant. He does not pay homage to the one who should receive homage, does not rise up for one whose presence he should rise up, does not offer a seat to one who deserves a seat, does not make a way for one whom he should make way, and does not honour, respect, revere, and venerate one who should be honoured, respected, revered, and venerated. Because of performing and undertaking such action, when in dissolution of the body, after death he reappears in a state of depression, in predation, even in hell, but if instead he comes back to the human state, then wherever he is reborn, he is low-born. This is the way, student, that leads to slow birth, namely, one is obstinate and arrogant. He does not pay homage to one who should receive homage, does not rise up for one whose presence he should rise up, does not offer a seat for one who deserves a seat, does not make way for one whom he should make way, and does not honour, respect, revere, and venerate one who should be honoured, respected, revered, and venerated. But here, student, some man or woman is not obstinate and arrogant. He pays homage to one who should receive homage, rises up for one in whose presence he should rise up, offers a seat to one who deserves a seat, makes way for one whom he should make way, and honours, respects, reveres, and venerates one who should be honoured, respected, revered, and venerated. Because of performing and undertaking such action in the dissolution of the body, after death he reappears in an unhappy destination, in the heavenly world, but if instead he comes back to the human state, then wherever he is reborn, he is highborn. This is the way, student, that leads to high birth, namely, one is not obstinate and arrogant. He pays homage to one who should receive homage, rises up for one in those presents who should rise up, offers a seat to who deserves a seat, makes way for one whom he should be make way, and honours, respects, and veneres one who should be honoured, respected, revered, and volunteered. Here, student, some man or woman does not visit a recluse or a Brahmin ask, Venerable sir, what is wholesome? What is unwholesome? What is blamada? What is blameless? What should be cultivated? What should not be cultivated? What kind of action will lead to my health and suffering for a long term? What kind of action will lead to my welfare and happiness for a long time? Because of performing and undertaking such action on the dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a state of depravity, prediction of hell, but if instead he comes back to his human state, then whether he is reborn, he is stupid. This is the way, student, that leads to stupidity, namely, one does not visit a reclusive Brahmin and ask such questions, but here, student, some man or woman visits a recluse or Brahmin, Venerable sir, what is wholesome? What kind of will lead to my welfare and happiness for a long time? Because of performing and undertaking such an action on the dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a happy destination in the heavenly world, but instead he comes back to the human state. Then wherever he is born, he is wise. This is the way, student, that leads to wisdom, namely one visits a recluse or a Brahmin and asks such questions. Thus, students, the way that leads to short life makes people short-lived. The way that leads to long life makes people long-lived. The way that leads to sickness makes people sickly. The way that leads to health makes people healthy. The way that leads to ugliness makes people ugly. The way that leads to being beautiful makes people beautiful. The way that leads to being uninfluential makes people uninfluential. The way that leads to being influential makes people influential. The way that leads to poverty makes people poor. The way that leads to wealth makes people wealthy. The way that leads to low birth makes people low-born. The way that leads to high birth makes people high-born. The way that leads to stupidity makes people stupid. The way that leads to wisdom makes people wise. Beings are owners of their actions. Students heirs of their actions. They originate from their actions, are bound to their actions, have their actions as refuge. It is an action that distinguishes being as inferior and superior. When this was said, the Brahmin student Sabha told his son, said to the Blessed One, Magnificent Master Gomatar, Magnificent Master Gomatar, Master Gomatar has made the Dharma clear in many ways, as though he was turning upright what had been overturned, revealing what was hidden, showing the way to the one who was lost, or holding up a lamp in the dark for those with eyesight to see forms. I go to Master Gomatar for refuge and to the Dharma and to the Sangha of bhikkhus. Let Master Gomatar remember me as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge for life.